Hello dear GFAtv viewers, this is Sotiris, and today I'm going to talk about a problem that everybody has encountered, everybody in music and actually everywhere, and that's effective practicing. The perfect practice routine does not exist. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. I'm just kidding, not for the practice thing. Well, I hope that was funny, but at least I tried. Everyone is unique, and simply put, after a certain level, a method that is not adapted could even prove detrimental, with the worst outcome being you saying, "I'm bored." And that's pretty much the most dangerous, scary thing anybody could ever say. And while I'm not claiming that there aren't some great routines out there, we can agree that no routine is ever made just for us. That is simply for you to invent. So what I'm going to show you today is a general mindset on practicing that you can adapt to yourself, to your goals and needs, so you can make it effective through your personal experience. In any case, you know yourself better than anyone anyway. So let's get into it. I'm going to start by presenting an ideal utopian, if you'd rather, practice scenario. What you are looking at here is not the perfect routine, but my personal conviction of effective, holistic practicing. A common mistake of young players, without excluding myself, is that we forget the interconnection or interdependence of all the elements that, when combined, they produce a successful practice dynamic. Musicality, knowledge, experimentation. That's some of the parts that are essential to forge a musician. That's why I insist on the word holistic. We are not only practicing to learn a new piece, but to grow as a musician and consequently as a person. Starting from here, the nature of effectiveness in practice changes drastically. The goal changes from playing notes to exploring music and all its aspects. Talking about goals, firstly, today, in a way, they are pretty much irrelevant. Everyday goals in life are mostly extrinsic, like doing your homework for school because you don't want to get berated, or learning a piece to please your teacher or for an exam or competition. Although they can be effective, in my opinion, they shouldn't be the main source of your goals when practicing. You practice for yourself, so you can grow as a musician, as a person, so you can become a better version of yourself. Every day you take your guitar and practice, you are actively choosing to improve your playing, pushing yourself to new heights, and for me, that is a beautiful thing. So now your goals are personal and not imposed onto you. You have freedom to construct those goals. The more diverse, the better. Practice goals are always good, like deadlines for learning a piece by heart, or more enriching goals, like learning the story behind the composer of your piece. Don't be afraid to push your limits with your goals, but remember that when you set them, you are making a promise to yourself. Finally, do not underestimate what you can achieve and try hard. Everything is possible if you really go for it. As you can see in my previous chart, practicing has a more universal meaning, and the percentages I used do not reflect what you should do, but merely suggest a process. Before I get more into detail, I would like to just very briefly mention the importance of warming up, which is significantly neglected. Just like athletes, we use muscles to play our instruments. Imagine that the guitar is the running course and our hands the runners. There is literally nothing to lose and everything to win while you warm up. It is a precaution for the future, for younger players, and a way to preserve for the older. When I was 15, I was not taking it seriously, warming up, but after 10 years, I got to realize the importance of it and the benefits of doing it and the problems when you're not doing it. I know that I have damaged my fingers when I was practicing for too long and carelessly, but for now, thanks to my youth, I'm not having any problems, although I'm pretty sure that they will happen eventually after some time. So do not make the same mistake as I did. Now back to our practice mindset and what to look for in our practice sessions. The 4 very important aspects that I have collected when practicing. Be ready, train your fingers, train your mind, have fun. Once more, everything is interconnected, you cannot have one without the other. First, be ready. Prepare yourself physically and mentally. Warm up your fingers, put yourself in practice mode, start with the simplest exercise possible. I think that is pretty straightforward. I'm just telling you to take care of yourself. Secondly, train your fingers. You can start by doing more advanced exercises to improve your technique. Then when you feel ready, start plunging through the piece you're practicing. It is different to practice a piece and playing it. When you practice, you focus on improving what is already good and fixing what's not. It can be phrasing or technique, and you probably know so many ways to practice precisely. You know, play slow, then slower, then even slower, etc., and slower. Playing through the piece is mostly an endurance test, or to confirm your improvement towards your goal, or simply enjoy playing from start to finish. Evidently, it's a very good way to know where you are with the piece and if you can actually play it. Third, train your mind. Now things get interesting. Glenn Gould once said, quote, "We do not play the piano with our fingers, but with our mind." By writing down, understanding what you are doing, I'm asking you a very simple question. Are you learning music beyond playing the notes? It is extremely hard to distinguish the difference. I could not for a long time, and to be honest, even today, I'm surprised with my ignorance. The beauty of music is everything it represents through the notes. When we finally conquer a piece, but without exploring further, deeper, then we have done 50% of the job. And by the way, it never gets to 100% because music never ends, blah 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 blah. While learning a new piece is already a big challenge, we are missing out a lot on its purpose. Who is the composer? What style of music is he writing? Why did he write this piece? For whom? And then we get to the research part, which is as important as playing. You get to explore the world and the history behind your piece. The same applies to listening to music, but really listening. For me, it's equal to practicing. The things you can gain from a good concert, apart from just the joy of music, are unlimited. The enormous subconscious impact it causes cannot be even described by words. It has happened to me many times, and it can happen to you too, if it hasn't already. After receiving all this information and inspiration, hopefully, you can get back to training your fingers. Are you approaching the piece the same way? Do you want to change the phrasing maybe? These newfound questions are essential to improve your musicality, your technique, your understanding. Doubting your choices leads to eventual decisions that this time are informed. So they are real decisions that you make yourself by understanding what you're doing. Sight reading is essential for many reasons. It improves your music reading, confirms what you know, what you don't, and what you had the illusion that you did, all the while trying to spontaneously play whatever comes next. It is a gear check in a way, your skills are put to a real test, and it can be very revealing. If you are bad at sight reading, there's only one way to get better: sight reading. Fourth, have fun. This moment is your playground time. Still, it is so important that you have a good time just being in your comfort zone with your old pieces that can be still great sources to keep improving. Improvising as well is so much fun and actually a great teacher. When we improvise, we use what we already know, like, or experienced, and then we meddle them together, trying to make it sound good. It is quite personal actually, since you start with a subconscious idea, or you use something from the pieces you have played or practiced, and then you mix it with your conscious choices, then you jump back to the subconscious, where you might get lost only to find yourself back to your conscious side. Myself, I was introduced to the guitar and to music when I was a baby, and I've never stopped since. Today I'm 24 years old. I have been trying to improvise only for the last 2 years, to my shame, and I have been missing out a lot. And actually I feel pretty bad about it. Today I can say that I improvise. Well, badly, but actually I can do it. And I'm only getting better at it. Again, you have nothing to lose and literally everything to win. If this is not your cup of tea, you can be creative in other ways. Compose music or songs, make videos, record yourself, learn new things, collaborate with others. Just keep growing through music. You only fail if you stop. That's all for today. I want to thank GFAtv for the invitation. I hope this video was useful, at least, or a little useful and not too boring. I'll see you next time.
Hola a todos, en el anterior vídeo os estuve hablando de la historia de la música española desde el Renacimiento hasta el siglo XX. Y en el vídeo de hoy os quiero hablar un poco de las características de la música española o de elementos que podemos encontrar en ella. Si recordáis, mencioné una etapa de la música española que es el movimiento nacionalista, que surge a finales del siglo XIX, principios del siglo XX, y en el que la figura de Felipe Pedrell destaca sobre otros musicólogos y compositores, y es que él empezó a investigar y a trabajar sobre el folclore español. En esa época de finales del siglo XIX y principios del XX, los compositores empiezan a utilizar recursos del folclore español, a utilizar danzas típicas españolas como base de composición, y también melodías o ritmos relacionados con el folclore como inspiración. También se empiezan a incorporar elementos como las castañuelas en la orquesta o a impulsar el papel de la guitarra española. Además, como nombraba antes, la utilización de bailes típicos españoles como son el fandango o la jota a la hora de servirse como inspiración para componer. La música española también está basada mucho, hablando a nivel armónico, en el modo frigio, ya que tuvo influencia árabe en el folclore y también incidió en la música flamenca o gitana. El flamenco está mayormente basado en tres modos: el modo frigio, el lidio y el dórico. Digamos que el modo natural es el frigio, y seguro que alguna vez habéis escuchado la utilización de la cadencia frigia o andaluza, que está basada en 4 acordes que descienden por grado conjunto. Por ejemplo, eso es lo que se llama la cadencia frigia o andaluza. Otro de los rasgos musicales que son utilizados en la música clásica es el hecho de la utilización de la segunda menor, bien sea armónicamente o melódicamente. También encontramos elementos como los tresillos españoles o tresillos ayes o jipíos, que también se llaman, que son una especie de melisma sonoro que pueden ser por ornamentación o también se utilizan como construcción a nivel compositivo.
De los buenos manantiales se forman los buenos ríos, abuelo, padre y tío.
A la hora de interpretarlos se puede dejar cierta libertad para que el intérprete pueda hacer el tresillo utilizando la primera nota más larga y acortando la segunda. Por ejemplo, en vez de hacer ta, 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 puedes hacer ta, ta, ta. Y si hablamos del ritmo, podemos destacar la acentuación de las síncopas o de las hemiolas para darle otro impulso a la música, o incluso poder acentuar el offbeat de algunos compases para darle otro carácter a la interpretación. A final de cuentas, la música española es una mezcla de muchas culturas que han ido dejando rastro en nuestro país, por ejemplo, de pueblos como el árabe o de los romanos, y que han ido mezclando y han ido sacando esta mezcla cultural que es muy difícil de poner nombre y etiquetar solamente a ciertos aspectos, ya que involucra a muchas influencias de muchos siglos.
Many years ago, I took a lesson from a guitar teacher just down the road from where I grew up. I played the Bach Bourrée. After I played it, he looked at me and said, "What does this piece mean to you? How does it make you feel? And what are the characteristics of this particular piece?" Being young and silly, I kind of dismissed those questions, but little did I realize that this would become the basis of how I would approach music. How is music capable of arousing a certain feeling or expression? This is an important question, and when we are talking about the music of the Baroque, this is perhaps the most important question. The doctrine of affections, the driving force of this period of music. If you have never heard of this term before, I urge you all to go and do research about it. Simply, It is the idea that many facets, from key signature to harmony, can elicit an emotional response. And these cover all of the human experience. Although there are a mountain of topics to talk about in the Baroque period, as I only have a short amount of time with you today, I only want to touch upon 4 issues. Of course, this is just a preview and I'm just skimming the surface, so please go and do your own research. Number 1, look at the title of the piece. Discover what the characteristics are of the type of piece you are playing. Is it a courante or is it a currente? Because this difference matters. One is the slower French dance, which might have been played using unequal or notes inégales, while the other is a faster dance. The sarabande, like the other Spanish dances, like the folia or the chaconne, has an accent on the second beat. 1, 2. This matters because it affects how the resolution occurs. A lot of people might perform this piece with an accent on the resolution. But that does not create an accent on the second beat, a characteristic of the sarabande. Or the chaconne. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Is it a French jig in 6 or the Italian giga in 12? It all matters and makes a massive difference in how we approach a piece. Make the characteristics heard. 2, ornamentation. Something that should be made very clear here is that there are a lot of treatises highlighting how ornamentation should be executed, and these differ vastly. These manuals have about this much telling us what we need to do. But then at the back, they have about this much of information saying, what if, however, in this case you can. I think that the main idea is that we want to do ornamentation that is in good taste. One trend that does seem clear throughout these treatises are comments about the speed of ornamentation, and that it should reflect the type and speed of the dance itself. So for instance, ornamentation in a sarabande will be slower and more drawn out than one in a gavotte. Remember, a lot of this music was conceived above a ground bass, and the music itself, above kind of lent itself to considerable improvisation. It seems like the norm that the repeated sections were highly ornamented, even to the extent where the original piece was sometimes unrecognizable. This leads me to my 3rd point, melody. Where is it? Baroque music should not be melody driven. It is driven by counterpoint, multiple lines weaving in and out. Do you recognize this? Because it should be as recognizable as this. And then when combined, it makes this. Unlike music of the Renaissance, which had multiple independent lines, these lines are composed in a way where they are harmonically interdependent. Throughout my studies, I used to make a point of taking courses on Baroque interpretation, and while there were differences in ideas, a common thread was always concentration on the ground bass. The idea of a clear melody kind of was just a bit of a mere afterthought, because a lot of the times it was just an improvisation. And finally, timbre. How much timbre should we use? Go and listen to an organ. Listen to the massive contrast in timbre created by all of the stops, the bright clarabella and the airy aeoline. This is a great way to describe the doctrine of affections. Should we be using this on the guitar for music of this period? We have a kaleidoscope of timbre at our disposal, and rather than just thinking of the guitar in three colours, tasto, normal, ponticello, let's think of the guitar as an organ with multiple colours all throughout the instrument. We have an instrument that can unlock the secrets of the Baroque. Now we just have to use it. And let's use it making sure we are focusing on the purpose and characteristics of the piece and what emotions the piece is trying to convey.
This one will be more or less simple, but it's gonna stay with you for a while. This exercise is so important, and it's always good, no matter what level you are, to keep doing this basic arpeggio. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so let's begin. Our initial positioning will be right off the bat a little different than classical guitar. Classical, you're usually straight on with your wrist. For this technique and most flamenco positioning, you'll want to keep that wrist bent and the thumb right at the edge of the sound hole. And so for this exercise, your thumb will control the basses and your fingers will control the trebles. Just index on G string, middle on B, and ring on E string. And so this is going to be a pretty simple explanation for what's going to go down in this exercise. You want your wrist to be a little bent so your nails are parallel to the string. This will give a more direct and accurate sound. Thumb will be all done with rest stroke except for the D string, the fourth string. And when you go to pluck the D string, just have your thumb immediately return to the A string. And if you don't know what rest stroke is, it's simply plucking and resting your finger on the string below or above. With thumb, it's the string below. And now with the fingers, these are all free stroke. So you're plucking into the air, into the palm. And so I recommend, as always, get used to the movement. It's important to just kind of let your fingers feel around and notice how you feel in the beginning. One sort of thing that can throw you off in the beginning is plucking too far into your palm. And this will cause problems later on when you start to build your speed up. Going too far into the palm will be the result of excess energy, which you want to save energy. So if you can, try to build into your practice little movements. The little movements will save you so much energy and actually give you so much more potential for speed. So here's the exercise, just right hand. It's just this arpeggio up and then back down. And really the only thing that changes is the bass. Each rotation through, the bass changes. And remember, if you can, as little movements as possible. But in the beginning, you're going to have to sort of give your hand leverage and move your fingers a little bit more because your fingers just haven't built enough strength yet. All right, so now I have just chosen 2 chords that I'm comfortable with and that I feel like I don't really have to worry about the shifts and really take a lot of time in between. And these chords are just E major and A minor. And these are comfortable enough for me to switch and keep the right hand arpeggio pattern circulating. These chords will be in a PDF for you to follow. And the right hand fingering is simple enough, so you just have the chords. And each chord you just go through the pattern. And if, as much as you can, the goal is to keep a circulating, continuous rotation through the arpeggio. It's fine if you sort of have some gaps in your chords in the beginning and maybe take some time to place your fingers. But as much as you can, you want this continuous sound, continuous arpeggio going. And so now you have a simple chord progression that also tests the left hand and also gives you some chords from the flamenco language that are widely used. And hopefully this exercise will serve as a warm-up, as a test for your speed, test for your strength, and testing how much you can use little movements and continuity in your playing. And so next lesson, we'll start getting into some actual flamenco phrases in solea. And that should be very fun. And we'll actually utilize the arpeggio and thumb rest stroke technique and picado. So stay tuned.